So, okay. So we have Margaret from our group. And so Margaret, tell me a little bit about what your relationship was like growing up around food in your body.
I would say from a very young age, probably around 5. Um, I was in a normal body, average body for a 5-year-old. But at that point, it was definitely brought to my attention that I was bigger than, one would hope a 5-year-old would be, which seems ludicrous now that I have children. But even from that young of an age, I was aware that there was a stigmatism toward bigger bodies, and that was influenced by the people that I was supposed to feel safest around. Both my parents have always been relatively thin, my mom especially, but she doesn't eat a whole lot to maintain that thinness. So it's definitely not a healthy relationship with food. My father's a type 1 diabetic, so he's always had to be extremely health conscious about what he's eating due to his type 1 diabetes. So that's good for him, but not a realistic goal for everybody else.
Yeah.
And then it was even more clear as I aged that women's bodies were definitely going to be focused on more than anything else. I had a brother, and he was bigger than average for a long time and was able to do whatever he wanted without, the nitpicking and the constant talk and shame around it. So, and then I think I was put on a diet for the first time at like 12. Again, still in an average body at that point. And so yeah, I never really had a normal relationship with my body. And then once I hit college and I went to school and was able to eat whatever I wanted, it was like,
Yeah.
what is this? I can do whatever I want. And I put on about 60 pounds in college, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then lost it after college. But even with losing that, I still didn't feel good enough.
Yeah. What was your breaking point um, with diet culture that helped you move into the intuitive eating space?
I think I did it kind of not naturally, but I have 2 children. And when my older son was coming into like, I want to say like 2, 3, when he decided not to eat anything, because he was a really good eater as a baby. And all he wanted was like preservative laced foods, which is not something, again, that's like a bad food, right? So I started panicking a little.
Right.
Like he needs to start learning now. And so I really relied on my best friend who's a pediatrician to kind of help me with that piece. And what she said always stuck with me, and that I think kind of led into this journey. But she said, you decide what they eat and they decide how much. They know when they're full or they know when they're hungry, but you decide what to give them. And so I think then having a second child and realizing that I really don't want to pass these issues on, I started therapy. And that was kind of the first thing of like, all food doesn't have to be off limits.
Yeah.
Like, why are we making it this crazy thing that gets you in this mindset to binge? And then just by researching that, I found Sammy, and then, started that journey.
What was or can you describe your experience in group?
Yeah, I would say it was a really respectful and collaborative environment. I think, it was just 2 people when I started.
Yeah.
And that was great because she and I seemed to be like right on the same page. And it was, we're obviously from 2 completely different places, but we are the same person. And then as more people joined the group, it was like, oh my gosh, everybody is the same person. And like, we've all had this shared experience and we're all struggling and we all want to change our relationship with food, with our bodies, with everything. And I think for so long, and I don't know for everybody else, but I think for so long for me, this seemed to be such a personal struggle. Like, how does everybody else have it together? How does everybody else feel great about food? And again, that best friend that I have that's a pediatrician, her mom is a nutritionist, and she, being in college with her, living with her after college, it was like she just had the most perfect relationship with food. She ate what she wanted, she didn't eat what she didn't want. You know, she just, it was this like very neutral
Yeah.
relationship with food. And it was like, how can somebody live like that? Um, but yeah, I think unless you're like consciously trying to change it, I think we're all in this environment somehow
Yeah.
with diet culture. So it was a very bonding experience and supportive, a
Yeah.
very supportive environment.
Yeah. I love that. Um, Tell me if you can, do you have like a big takeaway or aha moment that came from group?
I think again, just that it's not just me,
Yeah.
right? Like that, I maybe that's a silly part of it, but that to me was like, oh my gosh, I go to the gym every day. I see all these people and think they have it together, and they may or may not. And that doesn't matter. And I think for as much as I don't care about what people think for a variety of the rest of my life, like this was one thing that I am so conscious about. And now it's just kind of a moot point, I guess. And that to me was the biggest freeing moment to realize that, small, big, whatever body you're in, like everybody is somehow having this shared experience, and nobody feels great, right? Like nobody, I mean, maybe some percent do, but like for the vast majority.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. What would you say to someone who's considering going into group?
I think if this is something that, if your body image and your relationship with food is something that you think about more than once an hour, this will be a positive experience. I think the freeing of brain space that has come from making peace with all of this is probably the best thing that could have happened for my mental health. Um, and that doesn't mean that every day is perfect. And I think that's the other part of it, right? Like that's knowing that everybody's struggling, knowing that this is a constant, it's an ebb and a flow. I have gotten into like negative feelings, and I'm able to bring myself out of it knowing that like these are not truths. This is just how you're feeling today. Everything was different yesterday. Just take it one day at a time. And I think, again, just for my mental health and brain capacity, that has been liberating. And so I would say if anybody struggles with it on a daily basis, it would be a liberating feeling.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, there we go.